Welcome to the Fuel Podcast, where we explore the foundations under extraordinary lives. And now, here is your host, Chris Swartz.
Never stop dreaming.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your host, Chris Swartz, here with our Fuel Podcast. And before we get started, just want to get a little housekeeping items out of the way and thank our sponsor, First Choice Mortgage Advisors. Appreciate their support. And we are here today in the super cool Proof Studios with my good friend, Dan Lievens. And we're going to talk to Dan today a little bit about what he does in his life. As you know, Fuel is essentially an acronym for Foundations Under Extraordinary Lives. So a lot of people in your world, Dan, may know what you do and all the different business ventures you have and the Proof Studios and what you guys do here. But what we want to do with Fuel is we actually want to put that aside, put it on the shelf, and we want to dig into what got you here, if there's any experiences and things, and then that's kind of what Fuel's about. And but before we get into that, I mean, Dan and I have a little bit of history, and we go back to our days at Rotary in what?
That was many years ago, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've come a long ways for sure.
So, Dan and I actually traveled across the world, I guess you would call it, together, and we were in Seoul, South Korea for about a week. Was probably one of the most amazing unexpected experiences of my life, and I have to thank you for pushing me to do that.
For roping you into presidency of the Rotary Club?
Well, the presidency, sure, but I believe how it went down was we were in your office, and we were kicking around the idea of going to Seoul, which was where the Rotary International Convention was that year. And my recollection was, well, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. And we went back and forth and kind of ended up, well, I just booked it on my credit card, so hopefully you're coming. And I think that's kind of how we ended up in Seoul.
Yeah, that was an amazing trip. But thank you so much, Chris, for having me on the show. I love what you're doing here. And, it's very much in line with what we do in terms of, I've got a tagline that, I don't care what you do, I only care why you do it. And the why stems into the foundation that makes you who you are. So very much aligned with what you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you. And as we kind of move into this, you and I know each other. So I know some of the pretty amazing stories and, the travels in your life that you've, I think you said this is the longest time you've been in one place. So yeah. As you kind of think about those experiences and you can share with us, those different, the travels and your background, we're just kind of looking for anything that, it's you and I know each other. So it's open conversation and something that you may want to share to our listeners that may inspire them to just have that aha moment to say, oh, you know what? I have some fuel to take myself to the next level. And so I'm going to leave it open, man. Just throw it to you.
Sure. There's a couple things that are coming to mind. And this was actually a conversation that I had with somebody just yesterday. They asked me about my background. And as you alluded to, I was raised all over the world. My dad was a diplomat for the Belgian government. And they said, well, what's it like having traveled so much? And I used to say, hey, I wish that I was raised in one place, like my kids are, born and raised in Media, Pennsylvania. Our backyards meet, their friends' backyards, and it's kind of cool.
Sure.
And I always thought that it'd be nice the other way around, like travel when I'm a little bit older. But what really kind of hit me was, your past is your past. Your past are these puzzle pieces that make you who you are. That's your foundation. So there's definitely no regrets. And looking back, like how have I applied those travels in what I do? I think it's an understanding of different cultures. Being able to walk into a meeting and, I just have this, some people call it intuition, I guess, but without having traveled the world, and seeing different cultures and seeing how different people communicate, from body language to tones and all of that, has given me the ability to understand and look at people in a slightly different way. So I definitely appreciate that.
Kind of say more relatable, I guess.
Yeah, definitely more relatable, and very much in line with what I do today in terms of really being able to be a mirror for people in terms of helping them discover their purpose and their why. But your other question was the foundation for Proof, which I really want to touch because it falls in place with Fuel. And about a little over a year ago, maybe 18 months ago or so, I looked at my life and I felt a bit stagnant. And one of the exercises that I would take some of my clients through is I'd say, hey, imagine tomorrow morning waking up with a completely blank slate and having to be able to redesign your business any way you like. What would it look like? Not from the standpoint of, let's scratch everything and start over, but just a seed of possibility. So I took that and applied it to all aspects of my life. And, basically made a decision that I didn't want to be involved with anything anymore. I want to be committed in everything that I did. And that's kind of where today has come out of. In the last 18 months, I've created this beautiful concept. We've got global speakers coming on our stage now. I've changed relationships. I've gotten married. So my life has gone completely 180 as a result of re-examining my foundation, essentially, and fixing the cracks or fixing the things that didn't serve me, fixing the things where I felt like it's just an involvement versus a commitment.
So, yeah, kind of streamlining almost your life. A lot of us look at, streamlining a process or your business, but could probably in this sense look at, streamlining who you are as an individual.
Absolutely, streamlining your relationships, even as a father to two beautiful kids, like the concept of involvement versus commitment. Just being busy and not being present, versus really committed to being with them. It's a whole different way of looking at things. And also diving into discovering what your purpose is here in life. What are your gifts? What are you really good at? And if you looked at your life from the perspective of a job application, right? What job did I raise my hand up for when I signed up for this life? And that was a pretty powerful thought for me. And, that job description to me is really assisting others, entrepreneurs, emerging thought leaders, get into their purpose and giving them a platform and giving them a means to succeed. My view on entrepreneurs is very similar to yours. If it wasn't for entrepreneurs and if we were all working for somebody else, there wouldn't be a lot of advancement in the world. And it's the entrepreneurs that are willing to sacrifice and give up luxuries to pursue their gift. That's such a beauty.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stop you there, and say because you have that, right? You have that ability to give up things and to sacrifice to be that entrepreneur. What do you think gives you that drive? Because it's not for everybody, right? Some people like the idea of everything being planned out and going to work at 9 and leaving at 5 and, having that. So is there anything that you think, just gives you that drive and that kind of that fire?
Wow, Chris, that's something just like a light bulb just went off in my head, and I never did the correlation before. I'm used to dropping everything and starting over. Like, that doesn't scare me anymore. Failure doesn't scare me. And as a kid, like, we used to, every 4 years, we'd switch countries, right? And I started schooling in Dutch, and then I went to a Chinese school, and then I went to a French school, and I went to a British school, and I went to an American school. That's all before I went to college. And then add on top of that, moving from China to Hong Kong to Singapore to Taiwan to Belgium and into America, like, you know what, that's part of my foundation. Holy
go.
moly,
That's
I never
what we're
thought
here
of that.
for,
Yeah.
man.
So I guess the
That's awesome.
the no fear of jumping, but one thing that hasn't served me, and it's interesting, my last business partner for another endeavor, when I got together with him, he made me sign something that I would not squirrel, that I would not get involved with
Right.
something else, because that's been my MO, is like, okay, done that, been there, done that, move on to the next, shiny object.
Sure. So just as many entrepreneurs, it's it's kind of a gift and a curse. You're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to put in the time and go over and above, but you also have to be careful, because you can be disinterested quickly, looking for the next, okay, conquered that, what's next? And you can also miss out on a lot of experiences in life by being consumed with that drive. So being an entrepreneur, it's something that can be a gift and a curse, and that sounds like something that you've experienced.
Yeah, and as I get older, it's really, and part of my work 18 months ago was also discovering, and I had a mission. This was a legitimate mission. I was like, Dan, what was so wrong with my original vision to where I had to get rid of it? So can I create something where I wouldn't in 2, 3, 4, 5 years feel like I had to get rid of it or be sick and tired of it? So the Proof was actually a morphed thing. It first started as an agency, and then it went to a video production company, and now we've got a stage. Like, it's morphed into this as a result of checking in and saying, hey, am I living a life on purpose? Am I really being the best that I can be? And to me, it's like, if you are passionate about what you do, and you wake up in the morning, bounce out of bed, excited to do it, your ability to impact the person that you're working with is 100-fold, right? As opposed to doing something that you're just kind of involved in. Sure. And, to be able to live that life, so part of my exercise is like, hey, I wake up in the morning, maybe not every morning now, but periodically we sit down and say, hey, what parts of our business, what parts of our lives are just an involvement and a chore? And can we convert that or get rid of it or morph it or look at it in a different way to where it is like a commitment that we're excited about?
Yeah, that's a really interesting distinction that, as I sit here, it just hits me. And, that idea of being committed versus involved. And I'm literally sitting here thinking, like, what are the things that I'm, quote unquote, involved in that I'm really not committed to? And so that is a powerful distinction. I appreciate that. Insight,
absolutely. And it's not always easy. I mean, there's paychecks and there's responsibilities, there's bills, there's a lot of things, other factors. You can't just decide to take your shoes off and go travel across India when you got kids and a mortgage and everything else, right?
Sure. Excuse me. But so having gone down the various paths in life that you have, and I just think your story is so interesting. As just a little side note, as we were doing our mic check here, I'm A, B, C, D. Dan decides the only way that he can do the alphabet is in French. So, just really had to one up me here. But it just, it's so cool to share, with someone that that has so many different experiences and such a broad, view on life. I don't think I have met anyone else in my life that their father was a diplomat. And it's really, if there's any other, I guess, parts of that that you do you ever tap into any of that? Like if you're just not feeling it, or if you're lack of clarity, where there's maybe some sort of experience that you tap into that just flips the switch?
Yeah. So, and it's a little bit by chance and a little bit by design. The work that we do at the Proof is a huge anchor for us. Every time I sit down and go through the why discovery, the excavation process, I get a glimpse into the importance of people's past, the importance of their foundation as it relates to what they're doing. And it's such a beautiful guiding light for purpose. And even sitting here today, being that this is the work that I do, like I never correlated my appetite for entrepreneurialism to the fact that I was transplanted so many times, right? And it's being able to have these conversations with people almost on a daily basis that has made me such a better parent, has made me such a better business person, has made me such a better husband to my wife, especially as a parent. When you talk to people about their retrospection on their father or mother's biggest challenge and their view on their childhood, it's like, wow, like what are my kids going to think about me? Like if it's my kids being interviewed 20 years from now, what are you going to say about me, right?
Yeah, what's that legacy going to look like?
Right, exactly. So I'm super, super thankful to being able to do the work that I'm doing. And it's just a constant reminder of the importance of understanding all the factors, all the foundation factors of your life, and moving forward from there.
Nice.
And by the way, it's super, super hard for me to recite the alphabet in English because I learned it in French, and I count in Chinese because I learned how to count when I was speaking Chinese at the time. So I'm not trying to one-up you, man.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. And as you go through your business and you do a lot of work with people, and having gone through the Proof experience myself, I guess I can understand firsthand how, at least for me, it was a reflection on a lot of different parts of my life, and to say, hey, well, I'm gonna get up there on stage and talk about who I am and why I do what I do. Do you find that a lot with the people that come through the Proof, that they tend to have some sort of a foundation or past experience that is a common thread that they talk about or experience?
Absolutely. So my job really is to do the excavation, so just to really dive deep, and I just kind of know where to go next, kind of in terms of questioning. And my wife Stacy is a beautiful story crafter, so she looks at all that data and creates like a through line and a beautiful story that's a true representation of why people do what they do. But yeah, most people do have a through line. Most people are, their houses are built on their foundation, as you always say. And the houses that aren't built on a foundation are the ones that aren't going to last very long. And that shows up in the world as a job shift, or, maybe depression, or, middle-age crisis, or any of those things, right? So not only do we help people discover what their foundation is at the Proof, a lot of people have switched, have realigned their businesses a little bit based on a revelation of our processes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, part of what we do here is we like to throw some rapid fire questions at you.
Uh-oh.
And so these are just completely off the cuff. We'll kind of
that's usually my job, man.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're stuck on an island.
Okay.
All right. And if you're stuck on the island, I guess the first thing, you're not going anywhere. A good book. What book do you take with you?
Huh. Wow. The first thing that popped into my head is the Quran. I'm not Muslim. I'm not really religious. But I remember when I was doing my master's in business that we had to take a course, and part of the challenge of the course is putting yourself in an environment where you're really uncomfortable. So I went to the local mosque, and this is right after 9/11, and they welcomed me with open arms. And when I left, one of the guys came up to me and handed me a bag with a bunch of books, including the Quran. And I think the Quran is probably the most misunderstood book out there. I don't know, I haven't read the whole thing yet.
Right.
And if I was stuck on an island and I had only one book for like 20 years, I'd want to pick a pretty big challenge there. So I think I'd pick that.
Okay. Nice. Definitely threw me a curveball there, and that'll be some good reading for sure. You've got a lot to tackle there. So, the second question there, if you're stuck on the island outside of your family and your loved ones, your children, wife, the people that of course we would all want to bring, who would you bring? It could be anybody, fun, survivalist.
I recently met somebody by the name of Richard Rossi, and him and I kind of hit it off, and he runs, his big passion is to assist kids in pursuing their purpose. So just a few weeks ago, I went to his event in Boston. There's 7,000 people in the stadium, and 4,000 of them were kids,
Wow.
dying to get into the medical field. And we watched like a live knee replacement, and then all these doctors and prodigies that were on stage. He's just a really genuine person, and every time I get together with him, we talk about these crazy purpose-driven questions and whatnot.
Nice.
He'd be a fun guy to be with. You'd be too, actually, Chris. So
Nice. Thank you.
yeah.
Actually, somebody threw the question back at me just earlier today. We did a taping of the show, and off air, he said, "Well, who would you take with you?" And I was literally just, caught me off guard, and here I am asking the question over and over. And actually, you know what, brother? I picked you.
wow.
Yeah,
What
Gene
an
can
honor.
attest to that. I
What an
mean,
honor.
we had a hell of a time.
We sure did, man.
in Korea, good conversation, good life experiences.
Yeah.
So, that's
We would have a great time.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
So,
we could write many books together too, for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last one, kind of knowing you, I don't know where you're going to go with this because you're not really a junk food kind of guy, but candy or food or just like your secret indulgence, whether it's candy or a drink or whatever you'd bring.
I love wine. I love dark chocolate.
Well, dude, you're on an island. You can't have it all right? You got.
okay.
What are you taking? Are you taking the wine or the dark chocolate?
Ooh, if it's really good wine, I'd have to go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
Good
surprise,
question.
my friends. All right. Awesome. Well, Dan, I really appreciate, your time today. Always love our conversation. So for our listeners out there, where can they find you?
The best way right now is we're creating a lot of conversations and engagement around purpose and discovering your why and how to really establish credibility on what you're doing. And most of the conversations, a good conversation, are happening on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Why Warriors, and there's a shortcut. Just go to whywarriornation.com. And from there, we we do interviews similar to this, and we talk about different exercises and ways of communicating our purpose and leveraging that as an entrepreneur to further our mission.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to check that out. And we want to give another shout out to our sponsor, First Choice Mortgage Advisors, and thank them for their support here. And when I ask everybody that's listening to go ahead and rate us on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. If you like this, share it, post it, and we really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back here next week on our show. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Have an awesome week.